The cafeteria was loud that afternoon, the air filled with clattering trays and teenage laughter, but for a single girl sitting alone in the far corner, the sound felt like a storm she couldn't escape. Her head was lowered, her shoulders hunched as if she were trying to disappear into herself. But the cruel eyes of others never failed to find her. What happened next would shatter her world, capture the attention of the entire school, and eventually shake a community to its core. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the strength of standing up for what's right, then please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Her name was Emily Carter. 17 years old, quiet, artistic, and often misunderstood. She had the kind of beauty that wasn't flashy, the kind you noticed only if you looked closely, soft eyes that always carried an unspoken sadness, hands stained with ink from sketching in the margins of her notebooks, and a presence that whispered instead of shouted. But in a high school where cruelty often reigned louder than kindness, Emily's quietness made her a target. She had already been enduring months of teasing, whispers behind her back, cruel notes slipped into her locker, laughter when she walked down the hall. The torment had started small, almost like an initiation into invisibility, but it grew as the bullies realized she never fought back. To them, Emily's silence was weakness. To Emily, it was survival. That day in the cafeteria, the group of boys who often circled her like vultures struck harder than ever before. They came up behind her while she was eating, their laughter already echoing louder than the hum of the room. Before Emily could react, one of them grabbed the strap of her bra and yanked it so hard she gasped in pain, nearly falling from her chair. The sound of the snap seemed to pierce the entire cafeteria. A wave of laughter rolled across the tables as her face burned crimson with humiliation. She tried to cover herself, her hands trembling, her voice lost in the roar of their cruelty. What the boys didn't know was that someone had been filming. A student sitting 2 tables away, tired of seeing Emily suffer, had quietly taken out his phone when the bullies approached. The entire assault, from the moment they towered over her to the second she stumbled out of her seat with tears streaming down her face, was captured. That video would become the weapon Emily never had, proof of her pain, proof of her truth. But in the hours after, Emily didn't know any of that. All she felt was the crushing weight of shame. She locked herself in the bathroom stall, her body shaking, her reflection in the cracked mirror looking like a stranger she no longer recognized. Questions tore through her mind. Why me? Why won't they leave me alone? What did I do to deserve this? The thought of facing another day in that building felt unbearable. She wished she could disappear. At home that night, Emily's mother noticed her swollen eyes and fragile silence. Her mom had been fighting her own battles, long hours at work, bills piling up, exhaustion etched into her face, but she knew something was deeply wrong. Emily brushed it off with a whisper of, "I'm fine," but a mother's heart always knows. Still, Emily buried the truth. She didn't want to be a burden. Meanwhile, the student who had recorded the incident wrestled with his own conscience. His name was Daniel. He wasn't a hero, at least not in his own eyes. He had seen Emily bullied before and always looked away, telling himself it wasn't his problem. But watching her be humiliated in such a degrading, physical way made something inside him snap. That night, he uploaded the video anonymously to the school's digital forum, a place where students usually shared memes and announcements. He expected a few people to see it. He didn't expect the explosion. By morning, the video had gone viral not just within the school, but across social media platforms. Parents saw it. Teachers saw it. Strangers saw it. The laughter in the cafeteria had been replaced by a heavy silence as students whispered in shock about what they had witnessed on their screens. For the first time, Emily's suffering wasn't invisible. It was undeniable. The bullies were called into the principal's office. Their smirks vanished as administrators informed them that the police had been contacted. Because what they had done wasn't just harmless teasing. It was harassment. It was assault. And the law didn't see it as a joke. Within days, they were suspended. Within weeks, charges were filed. For Emily, who had lived so long in silence, it was both surreal and terrifying to watch the same boys who tormented her suddenly face consequences she never imagined possible. But the journey wasn't simple. Emily was thrust into a storm of attention she didn't ask for. Some students treated her like a symbol of bravery, whispering, "She's the girl from the video," while others blamed her for ruining those boys' lives. Victim blaming cut deeper than the initial assault. She found herself reliving the humiliation over and over as strangers discussed her trauma like gossip. Yet through the chaos, Emily discovered something she never expected: allies. Teachers who had once overlooked her began checking in, classmates who had stayed silent before now stood beside her in hallways, and Daniel eventually revealed himself as the one who had filmed the video. With a trembling voice, he apologized for not standing up sooner. Emily, though still healing, forgave him. Because in truth, his courage, even if late, had saved her from drowning in silence. The court case dragged on for months, but in the end, justice was served. The bullies, once untouchable in their arrogance, were sentenced to juvenile detention. They weren't just punished for that single day, but for a pattern of harassment uncovered through testimonies of other students they had harmed. For once, the system listened. For once, the weight shifted from the victim to the perpetrators. Emily's healing didn't come overnight. Nightmares lingered, and trust was slow to rebuild. But with therapy, with the unwavering love of her mother, and with a newfound circle of friends who admired her quiet strength, Emily began to rise. She poured her pain into her art, creating drawings that captured the rawness of survival, hands breaking free from chains, a girl standing tall against a storm, a single flame glowing in darkness. Her art was displayed at a local gallery months later, and as people stood before her work in silence, many wiped away tears. The same girl who once sat alone in the cafeteria corner had become a voice for others who suffered in silence. She began speaking at community events, sharing her story not with anger, but with a calm resilience that moved audiences. Emily had once believed her voice didn't matter. Now it was echoing further than she ever dreamed. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need hope, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope. Your small act of kindness could be the light in someone else's darkest moment. And before we end, I have a special request for you. Comment below with the words, "Kindness is stronger than cruelty." Let's flood this space with hope, so that anyone reading the comments knows they're not alone. Because Emily's story isn't just about pain. It's about the courage to rise, the power of truth, and the reminder that even in the darkest corners, justice and kindness can prevail.